Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's edition of the Maconi Setup Shop A-Fix tutorials. This week we are looking at arguably one of the best mile and a halves on the service right now, the Homestead Miami Speedway, so strap in and let's get to it. Uh, as always, the first thing I'm going to go over in this video is shifting. I do think if you're running anywhere other than the top, you're going to be shifting. I think if you are going to run the fence, I do think you're going to want to leave it in fifth gear, and the reason for that is the tire spin. You're running the fastest part of the racetrack up there, so you're obviously going to burn the right rear naturally. And if you're shifting up there, you're just going to have more RPMs, which is more wheel spin, and you're going to melt the right rear tire off. These first couple laps here, with the tires being really cold and not up to temperature, I still think the fastest line for qualifying is top bottom. And that's what I was trying to demonstrate here. The first lap was a little bit of a throwaway. I got a little too high in one, had to slow it down too much. But the line I do think is going to be top one and two, bottom three and four. And the reason for that is you just carry so much speed down the back straight away from running the top. You're like a tenth up running the top in one and two. You can run the top in three and four. The problem is with where the start finish line is, you don't have enough time to make up that distance. So the bottom in three and four is still really good. For qualifying, I think you'll want to leave it in fifth gear just for the wheel spin coming off of four, because you're trying to get into it hard. You're trying to hit a hot lap, right? So you need that drive off. And I find that in fourth gear, if I try to get aggressive, I get loose. Whereas if I leave it in fifth, I can stay aggressive. That's for qualifying. For the race, I think anytime you're running up anywhere other than the wall, you're going to want to be shifting. So you're going to be in fifth gear on the straightaways, fourth gear in the corners. This lap right here is a demonstration. This was fifth gear on this lap in particular. And you can see not only how tight it is, it's harder to slow the car down. You rely on the engine braking with shifting. It's just hard to get it down on the seam. Um, and then when you do get it down on the seam, you're so slow and bogged down that you almost have to full throttle it just to start going. That's why fifth gear is not the best for running the bottom. Here we are shifting again, and you can see the difference in how the car gets into the corner, how fast it slows down, and how much faster we can get in the gas. You just have to be easy on it when coming off these corners. Kind of like Darlington and Old Atlanta, this racetrack will tear your tires up if you're not taking care of them. It's a fun racetrack to race on, but you still want to race the racetrack. Okay, this is a track where you're going to have a lot of action. Everybody's going to be running different lines, which we're going to talk about. But you want to race the racetrack. Okay, take care of your tires, and if you're able to do that, your long run speed is going to be so good that you'll start passing guys that have burned their stuff off. Those guys are typically going to go to the wall because it's the fastest, and they think they can hold everybody off. Where if you take care of your stuff, you'll be able to run the bottom and still make passes. Now for the lines. Obviously, the top on the long run is going to be the way to go. Um, the top is fun. With all the laps I did for Road to Pro, watching the contender guys, and even doing some laps in the B car, and all the laps I watched them doing for the Coke race, the top is a ton of fun. Okay, if all else, if you're not having a good race, just run the top. It is a ton of fun. The bottom obviously is going to save your tires, but it's still very fast. There's grip all over this racetrack, and it's going to change based on where everybody's running, the weather conditions, and all that. Um, I still think if you can manage your stuff, the seam in one and two and the bottom in three and four is a fantastic line late in the run if you've taken care of your stuff and you're trying to make passes. Okay. Um, the seam in one and two is the seam all the way around the racetrack on the bottom and both ends used to be the traditional line. With all the updates, the track resurface, the tire, and everything else, the grip is more spread out, but the traditional lines around here was always this bottom seam around the racetrack. That's where everybody used to run. The white line, as long as you're not overdriving the heck out of it, has got a lot of grip and it's comfortable and you can really take care of your stuff as long as you manage the throttle. The seam in one and two on the bottom uh, is still, in my opinion, I think it's the best of both worlds. It's the fastest and you can still save your tires. The top is without a doubt lightning quick. Um, Real quick before we get into the in-car stuff, the way the best way I can try to explain to you guys on how to get around here, especially when you're running the bottom, is you don't want to be tracking out and being flush with the wall way up here by corner exit. Okay, you really want to try to be flush where the Geico sign is, and then off of 2, you want to try to visualize that same area. Okay, the reason for that is 1, there's better drive off down on the bottom if you can keep it lower. You keep your wheel straighter, and 2, right here where we just passed, there's a bump. Okay, that bump has always been there. Um, you're trying to stay under that. If you can stay under that, it's it's incredible the feeling and the difference that you get. You'll know if you get too high and you start hitting that bump, you feel it. You got to come out of the gas. You start playing with the wheel a little bit. You really want to avoid that. Okay. Um, the the reason you do it in 3 and 4, there's no bump exiting 4, but it's the drive off. Okay, it's the drive off. You got your wheels so much straighter. You're saving your tires. Okay. Um, Again, there's a big reason for it. It's a big way to get around this racetrack. If you're exiting like most mile and a halves, like a Kansas or a Chicago, for example, where you're just coming right out to the wall, right on corner exit, you can get away with that there because that's how the track is run. If you do that here, you're just sliding the front tires and you're just melting them. Okay. Uh, God, these laps are fun. Uh, Practice. If you're gonna get comfortable running the wall, practice, practice, practice. It's a little different in 1 and 2 than it is in 3 and 4. Okay, 3 and 4 you want to enter right up on the fence. Okay, 1 and 2 you really can't because of the angle of the corner and how the car is. You need that little bit of a gap. But the moment you get to the wall, you start building the throttle. You're not rushing it. You're just building the throttle. Okay, and then you're gonna make that straightaway so much longer. It's a lot of fun, and when you do it right, it's very rewarding. Okay. See how straight the wheel was before we go back to do the silent lap. Look how straight the wheel is coming off the corner. Okay, before we get into the silent lap, just look at easy on the throttle. Look how straight the wheel is coming up off the corner. There's no wheel spin. There's no tire sliding. There's no nothing. Okay, just really wanted to point that out for you guys. It's very common to see people melt their tires by exiting wide off these corners, and you don't really think anything of it, but the tire heat that you're putting in and the amount that you're scrubbing across the racetrack, it absolutely just melts tires around here. So I'll go, we'll do the silent lap here and we'll talk after. Okay guys, one more thing to touch on. Again, just I hate shifting. I try to avoid it as much as possible. Unfortunately, even in solo car with the gearing the way that it is, I almost feel like I have to. Okay, in the early laps of this run, I showed you what it's like to try to run the bottom without shifting. It's hard to hold the line. This middle lane here, if you can see my mouse, this middle lane here is about no man's land. If you're gonna run it, you really want to be on that seam down on the bottom. If you're underneath this seam right here, or even straddling it, I call it no man's land. It's kind of like Chicagoland, where that second lane around the racetrack is just completely useless. Even Kansas, that middle is just not as good as the bottom of the top. This is very identical. Okay, you want to commit. Clean air is very important, but the best part about Homestead is like there's so many options, right? You've got the bottom, you've got that seam, you've got the wall. There's plenty of options, and you're gonna see everybody spread out and running majority of different lines. Okay, the biggest thing is you just got to take care of your stuff, and you'll be really really good on the long run. And if you're gonna run the bottom, if you can try to keep it lower on exit and square up with the wall while you're down the straightaway instead of squaring up with the wall while you're still on the exit of the corner, you're going to find a lot of success here. Okay guys, that'll just about do it for this week's video. A lot of information to try to pour out in a short period of time. So if I missed anything or there's some you guys want clarification on, please leave a comment down below and I'll get to them throughout the week. If you find that this video was helpful, as always, please consider leaving a like. And last but not least, if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can see these videos every Monday when they're posted on the Maconi YouTube page. Alright guys, best of luck this week, and we'll see you on the track.